Manfred von Richthofen knocked down his 6th Tommy on October 25th, another BE-12 that belonged to a flight of 5 such machines from No. 21 Squadron. The Englishmen had been on an offensive patrol that had brought them over the lines to the vicinity of Bapaume. Arthur James Fisher had been killed instantly when von Richthofen's bullets had smashed into his stomach and the plane had gone straight down to disintegrate on the ground below. Oswald Boelcke couldn't have been prouder of the success his pupils were showing. Jagdstaffel II was establishing its reputation as the greatest German squadron, and by now even the English were taking note of the unit's record. On October 25th, Boelcke took his 2 best pilots, Manfred von Richthofen and Erwin Boehme, on a patrol that eventually led them into a scrap with British single-seaters belonging to No. 24 Squadron. In the ensuing dogfight, Boelcke and Boehme each found themselves closing on the same British machine, neither aware of the other's presence. With Boehme above, the 2 Albatross scouts briefly collided, and Boelcke's machine dropped like a stone, its upper wing buckled in trailing fabric. Minutes later, the pilot's lifeless body was pulled from the wreckage of his smashed airplane. The great Oswald Boelcke, victor of 40 aerial combats, was dead at the age of 25. The pilots of Jagdstaffel II were stricken with shock and grief at the loss of their mentor. Erwin Boehme, blaming himself for the accident, had to be talked out of committing suicide. As the fatherland mourned the loss of its greatest flyer, Boelcke was buried with honors at the cathedral in Cambrai. Von Richthofen, Boelcke's greatest student, carried his leader's medals in the procession. The Royal Flying Corps acknowledged their fallen opponent by dropping a wreath over Cambrai bearing the inscription, "To the memory of Captain Boelcke, our brave and chivalrous foe." Jagdstaffel II was officially renamed Jagdstaffel Boelcke, a name the squadron still bears to this day. In the days following Oswald Boelcke's death, Manfred von Richthofen continued to drive British aircraft from the skies over the Somme. He scored kills on November 3rd, the 9th, and then on the 20th brought his victory tally to 10 when he downed 2 British machines, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. After he had shot down his 8th plane, von Richthofen had expected to receive notification that he would be awarded the Pour le Mérite, as both Boelcke and Immelmann had for this achievement. To the flyer's chagrin, no such award was immediately forthcoming. The High Command, recognizing that the nature of the air war was becoming such that a pilot might reach the 7 victory mark in a relatively short time, raised the requirement to 16 victories. Manfred would have to wait for his Blue Max. After Boelcke had fallen, the leadership of Jagdstaffel II had been handed to Lieutenant Kehrmair, who had 10 victories of his own when he took charge of the unit. Kehrmair's command was to be short-lived. On November 22nd, he lost his life after a fight with 2 flyers from RFC Squadron No. 24. Stationed at Bertangles, No. 24 Squadron was, like Jagdstaffel II, a fighting unit of seasoned flyers that had been hand-picked by England's most famous pilot, Major Leno Hawker. Originally formed around the new de Havilland fighters to counter the Fokker Scourge, the squadron was now primarily assigned to providing escort for the busy British 2-seater squadrons operating over the front. On the day after Jagdstaffel II lost its new commander to pilots from No. 24 Squadron, the British unit was to lose its own leader as well. On November 23rd, Manfred von Richthofen won his 11th aerial duel over what would be the most famous opponent of his career. Major Leno Hawker, with 9 victories to his credit and holder of the Victoria Cross, was leading a flight of 3 machines northeast of Bapaume when they'd encountered albatrosses belonging to Jagdstaffel II. As the opposing pilots paired off into individual duels, Hawker found himself locked in a tight spiral with the Albatross D2 flown by Manfred von Richthofen. Around and around they went, first to the right, then to the left, neither flyer able to gain advantage over the other. As the pair of planes came lower and lower to the ground, Hawker knew that his situation would soon be critical. His fuel was by now running low, and the prevailing winds blowing to the east would only serve to make the trip home more difficult. With the ground now only 150 feet below, Hawker made his bid for a dash towards the British lines, and von Richthofen, seizing the opportunity, got off a burst that hit the Englishman in the back of the head. Hawker's machine crashed in the shell-pocked landscape just a mile or so short of the front lines.